Hey, hey. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for tuning in tonight to Cosmic Wisdom. I am so glad you're here. How's everybody doing with all these transits in the sky with blessings and trines? A little bit of challenges, but none of them really super serious, unless you got something else going on seriously in your chart. It's hilarious today. My grandson happened to know that he was having a Saturn transit. I couldn't believe it. He doesn't even know astrology, but he was like, I think we should check my chart. I think I'm having a Saturn transit. He was absolutely right. He was. It's hilarious. And turns out, his struggle with school and the system and those kinds of things and teacher, were definitely coming up for him. It's interesting since I'm his teacher, huh? I thought it was a very sweet way of him saying, I'm sorry that I keep doing this. Please forgive me. And also seeking to understand himself. Hey, that's a really good part of astrology. It helps you understand who you are and what's going on in your life. I think it can really help you navigate things in a better way, even when they're hard. Well, hello, Laura. It's so great to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Good evening, Alyssa. Hey, Victor. Happy coming to the Earth Day. Welcome. I'm glad you're here tuning in today, and happy coming to the Earth Day. Hey, Annie. Good to see you. And hi, Beth. Alyssa, it is cute, isn't it? It's hilarious. I can't believe that he knew. Like, he just had the intuitive, I don't know, he just somehow knew. I thought it was strange that he knew, actually. Anyway, I want to encourage you guys to go ahead and put in the chat if there's something that you're hoping for, a question you have, or some sort of question you need answered, like a message or something like that. Please put it in the chat, so in the comments, so that I can address it at some point. I will say that the astrology of last week and this week have been a lot of blessings for a lot of us, with Jupiter and Venus traveling in Cancer. That's really brought a lot of blessings to a lot of us. I feel like Jupiter is typically, while it makes everything bigger, it also tends to bring blessings to most things. When it goes retrograde, it's a little bit harder to tap into those positivities, but right now it's direct, and it's traveling with Venus, which is another sort of benefit planet, a planet that tends to bring us benefits or blessings, especially in relationships and connections with other people and money and resources. So I feel like the transits happening in the sky right now are really a blessing. We've been experiencing a lot of trines and sextiles, which I think is also a really powerful thing. And I feel like our connection to the universe is getting stronger, really, especially with Neptune doing this sort of dance in Aries. It's going to head back to Neptune soon. And it's traveling with Saturn. Saturn and Neptune are about to separate for a little while, but not for long. And then they'll come back together here in Aries, where they are now. They're currently going to go backwards towards Pisces. Saturn's going to go a little bit deeper into Pisces than Neptune. And then they'll both turn direct and start traveling again. I feel like when they separate, we'll probably reveal some things. We'll probably become aware of some things, like particularly around the system. I also feel like when Neptune is retrograde, sometimes there are illusions, and sometimes I feel like the illusions are so thick that we become aware that they're illusions, if that makes sense. So like, we have a belief system about something, or we see something, or we have a recognition about or a belief or a vision or something like that, and then, or a lie, really, and then at some point it sort of becomes so thick that we realize sort of the delusion part of it, the part that doesn't make sense. And since Neptune is traveling with Saturn, I feel like that's happening in our government right now. I feel like some of the lies and things are so thick that we're all becoming aware of how just dishonest they probably are and how delusional a lot of them are. And I think that's good. I feel like people are waking up, and hopefully you've noticed some people in your life waking up, since most of the people here on my channel are fairly what do they call us? They call us woke. Um I always laugh at that. I was just talking to my friend this weekend about how when sometimes when some people like try to insult you with that word. Has anyone tried to be insulted with that word? It's hilarious, isn't it? And then you're kind of like, is that a bad thing? Since when? Anyway, I hope you guys have been navigating this last week and this week in a positive way so far, and that you've been able to tap into your blessings and tap into what's good for you. I hope that you like I said, put stuff in the comments, you guys. Put stuff down in the comments. If you have any questions or you're hoping for a connection, or you want to ask something about a reading or something like that, please put it in the comments. I can't help you if I don't know you're watching. Hi, Jasmine Walker over in the group. It's great to see you. I'm glad you're here. Like I said, if you're looking for a reading or you have any other kind of question, please put it in the chat. I'm not doing spirit led. I'd rather just answer your question directly. Okay. And I just find it's cleaner and faster and more efficient that way. Okay. Alyssa said, I know I've been blessed and I'm grateful always. It just seems like I'm wearing shades at nighttime when trying to recognize the blessings. I see, Alyssa. Well, sometimes we all have a little bit, there could be a transit in your 8th house or in your 12th house. Maybe there's something that you're not seeing, or maybe you're just kind of darkening things, or something like that. It could be a transit. I'm trying to remember some of your astrology, Alyssa, but it could absolutely be a transit happening that's sort of shadowing your blessings. And it happens to everybody. Currently Uranus is in my 8th house, so or approaching or whatever, my 8th house, and I definitely feel it. I definitely feel that sort of push to explore the shadow part of myself, which isn't always easy. It's never easy to do shadow work, you guys. Everybody has to do it, though. Everybody gets to explore the part of us that we don't like, the part of us that we don't want to talk about, the part of us that scares us or whatever, or about topics, that are rather taboo. But hi, Crystal. Hi, Crystal. It's good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Welcome. Welcome. Good to have you with us today. And I hope if anyone has any questions, or so I'm an astrologer. I'm also a psychic medium. I'm also a teacher and a witch. And I've been a witch for a very, very long time. Since I was a teenager, really. And, I know quite a bit about different various spiritual paths, different ways of seeing things. And I definitely have strong guides that help me understand the other side. So I can also help you understand that. So Rebecca, it's all of them. I just want to say I was reading your question and I'm like, it's all of them. So I don't know why we have to choose one. She said, Rebecca said, who is with me? I feel someone on a regular basis, and 3 people it could be. Is it one of you, Nick, Bill, or Dad, or someone else? Actually, I think it's all 3 of them. Plus, there's also a female. I feel like that female is connected to your dad. So I think it might be like her mother, or sorry, his mother or something. It feels like your grandmother. So it feels like she's with you as well. She's also very strong in your field. And I would say that they're all just protecting you. They're all with you all the time. Spirits are always with us, because that's pretty much what they do on the other side, is they help us go through this life and help guide us. That's who your spirit guides are. Often they are people that have passed on to the other side that are with us now. And those spirits tend to sort of once they pass on to the other side, they tend to sort of guide you in life. And each one of them has a different job. So you should also understand that. I think she wants me to explain that to you, that a lot of times that has to do with like what was it like when they were alive. So like sometimes a person that took their own life would sort of help others with their mental health. If someone struggled with addiction when they were alive, they might help you struggle. If you're struggling with some sort of addiction, or they'll come in and try to help you recognize like if you're enabling or anything like that with an addict or an alcoholic or something. So they usually, everybody has their own jobs, and it's usually related to who they were when they were alive. And so she wanted me to tell you that. Apparently that's important to you somehow. Hey, Alyssa. It's great. Alyssa's saying that she's a Pisces sun, eighth house. Ah, there it is, Alyssa. There it is. And so that also would mean that probably the North Node is also in your eighth house, Alyssa. So the reason you're probably noticing that you're wearing the shades at night is because you're probably supposed to become more aware of your shadow. So, doing shadow work right now would be really helpful for you through this time. And with your Gemini moon in the 11th house, this has a lot to do with other people, like your friends and who you're surrounded by. And being a Leo rising, we just had like a Mercury retrograde in Leo rising, right? So just becoming, you know, yeah, I think your node, I think the fact that you're also having a nodal return. So your North Node must also be in Pisces. So I'm just going to say, if that's happening in eighth house, that's pretty much pushing you towards shadow work. That's what the eighth house is about. And that's what it sounds like you're kind of describing is what's happening to you. If you said at nighttime, you're kind of like, or in the evening, you're becoming aware, like you're grateful for your blessings, but at the same time, you're also kind of struggling with like feeling good about it or something. So there might be a perspective thing or something like that that you need to explore. Maybe you're carrying it from your childhood or whatever. Take a look at where Neptune is and what Neptune's conversation is, what aspects Neptune is in. Take a look at Neptune to help you understand more deeply your Pisces sun and your North Node. Hey, Kat, it's your birthday too? Whoa, someone else said it was their birthday. This is a birthday kind of day. What do I must have a bunch of Leos following me, huh? Well, happy coming to the Earth Day, Kat. Happy coming to the Earth Day. Hey, Sarah, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. Hi, Holly. I'm so glad you all are here, and it's good to have you with us. Jasmine, I hope you're still with us in the group. Jasmine, just send a message so I know you're still with us, and I'll address your question here. So I'm taking a look here, Jasmine. Jasmine asked, please could I have a reading? Will I see my two nieces, Bella and Javanna, anytime very soon? Very bad situation, please and thank you. First of all, I get a very strong yes. Let me see if I can get a number or something for you, Jasmine. Soon is kind of a not a very specific number, right? Let me see if I can get like an astrology symbol or something. When will Jasmine see her niece? Feels like in the fall, Jasmine. I feel like there's some family, what do you want to call it? Family dysfunction. um, families not getting along too well or something. But regardless of that, I feel like there's going to be some sort of reason that you guys come together, maybe over a holiday or something, fall, winter. It kind of feels like Scorpio season. So that's like November. And so that's what it's making me feel like. I wonder if I wonder if you will experience them. I think you will see them at some sort of, it feels like some sort of family event or something in the fall. I don't know if there's something already planned or something could be planned or something like that, but that's what it feels like to me. And I know it seems unlikely to you right now because that's what the spirit around you is saying, that it seems unlikely to you right now. But it will happen because there's someone else that's maybe it's even you, that is uncomfortable with the separation and dysfunction of the family. That's what I'm hearing. And so they're going to want to try to repair it by having people get together for a more casual thing around the holidays. I believe that's going to be like October, November. Um, yeah, okay. Oh, I see. Okay, so is it possible you could get invited to her birthday, Jasmine? I mean, September 20th is not Scorpio season, but Jasmine said, yes, that's correct. My family's not getting along. Giovanna's birthday is September the 20th. I'm not sure you're going to see her for her birthday, unfortunately, Jasmine. But I do feel like there's something else further out, more like November. Okay. Um, so I'm not sure about her birthday. Well, that's sad, and I'm sorry that that is true. Sometimes family dynamics definitely get in the way. Um, and happy coming to the Earth Day. I'm gonna suggest that you get a gift for Giovanna, and then when you see her, I'm assuming she's a child. Um, when you see her, I want to invite you to give it to her. Okay. Yeah, she's saying Jasmine's saying she's hoping. I haven't had any contact for over 3 months. I'm pretty sure that won't last forever. Jasmine, as hard as that is, I know that's really hard. I understand how challenging that could be, and I understand how that could be really challenging. I definitely have some challenging parts with my family too. There's all kinds of challenging things that come up, but I'm just letting you know that it will happen. You may not see her for her birthday exactly, but I'm going to suggest that you get her a gift and that you have it with you when you do see her later in the season. And you could just say, I'm sorry I wasn't at your birthday party, but here, this is what I got you. Um, so I feel that that will be important. I think you have some sort of special idea about a gift, or you'll have a special idea about the gift or something like that. Like you already kind of got in your mind's eye what you might get her. Okay. Um, Rebecca, shoot. See, this is why I ask you guys. So Rebecca, you'll have to rewind it. I don't even remember what my response was. Sorry. That's what channeling is. We don't really remember what we said. Hi, Danielle. Welcome. Alyssa, there are a few books on Amazon, and I'm also happy to do coaching if that works for you. Just like I could probably get you started on it in just a few coaching sessions. You could probably buy a packet of 4, and you don't have to come every week. You could probably use it over a period of time, and we could slowly like sort of work through things, and I could like give you assignments that could take a little while, and then you come back. I use astrology to guide you through your shadow work, and especially for you because you have all those 8th house placements. Eh? Everybody's wishing you a happy birthday, Kat. Kat, let me ask if I can get an idea of when SSI will get approved for Kat. Will Kat's SSI get approved in September? How about October? November. Kat, I'm pretty sure you'll have it by November. Sorry for it to be so far out. But I just went through month by month, waiting to feel the chills, and I got the chills in November. Okay. Holly says she wishes her baby would come through. Um, okay. Great. Great, Rebecca. Yeah, just rewind and you'll get your message. Rebecca, it's like a Christmas gift. You get to open it up later, okay? Oh my God. You're welcome, Jasmine. I'm glad that resonated with you. Just a short little reading for you. I'm happy to check into things like that for you guys. Just ask your questions or put your requests in the chat, in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer them for you to the best of my ability. Hey, Shawnee, welcome. I'm sorry that you were late. It's okay. No big deal. Shawnee's wishing her fellow Leos a happy birthday. Shawnee said Hollis was super accurate when it came to when I got my settlement for Social Security. Yes, that's thanks, Shawnee. I appreciate that. Um, um, the Kat, what I would suggest is I can also look at your astrology chart, which would be more accurate than me asking my intuition. It might mean that you get approved in September, but you don't get a check till November or something like that. You know, like it's sometimes it's a little bit more clear with the astrology, if that makes sense. So astrology is just more accurate, really. Even in when I do astrology with mediumship readings, when I kind of put the two together for helping people that have grieved, people that are struggling with death and things like that, when they've lost a loved one, and I look at the astrology of their loved one's death, and as I and when I start to look at that, even that those readings are way more accurate than my mediumship readings, partially because I'm using the astrology, but also because I think the astrology helps me get my mind out of the way. Because the thing about mediumship is that it's very much about, like, everything that I bring through is filtered through me. It's filtered through my experience, my life. But in astrology, it's a little bit more concrete, and it's a little bit more it's just easier to predict things. It's easier to see when things might happen. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's certainly more accurate. The astrology is way more accurate than than my mediumship. I'd say by about 10%. Okay. It's just a little bit of, and I've used all forms of divination. I've used mediumship, like just intuitive sense. I've used tarot. I've used pendulums. I've used this thing where you throw coconut shells. um I've used runes. I've pretty much used every kind of divination that's out there. And if you ever really need something super accurate, or you're just super skeptical or whatever it is, I would highly recommend astrology. It's just a more powerful, it's just more concrete and a little bit easier for the person, for the assuming the astrologer has a pretty good education in it and has some experience. Um, they'll probably hopefully do a really great job. At least for me, astrology is the most accurate form of, I guess, divination, if you want to call it that, that I've ever used. I will say that typically mediumship is pretty accurate for me, but I'd put it in the 80-85% maybe accurate, and I would put astrology more like 95. Um, Kat said, thanks everyone for the birthday wishes. I love that you guys all support each other and that we're a community here. That's really the most beautiful part about my lives, honestly. That's what makes these lives fun for all of us readers, all Sarah and Mama Cole and Nicole, all of us. We enjoy that we get to connect with you guys and build community, and we love how you all support each other. And that that makes it really special. Um oh, Kat, enjoy your sushi, okay? Enjoy your sushi. Kat's a Leo with a Taurus rising and an Aries moon. Huh. Interesting. Okay. I was just thinking about the Leo, Taurus rising, Aries moon. So sometimes that Aries moon must make you a little bit anxious, huh, Kat? Sometimes you find yourself a little bit anxious. But with that Taurus rising, I would suspect that you will probably hear about the SSI probably before Uranus goes retrograde, hopefully, especially since you applied in 2019. Not looking at the rest of your chart, trying to imagine all the parts. Taurus rising. So then that would mean that I was just trying to like kind of imagine your chart. But yeah, it's easier when I look at your whole chart, right? Kat said, it's interesting that you've tried all the divining tools. I have a wheel thing that has all the diamonds and spades numbers and letters on it. I'll never see anything like it. Okay. All right, Kat. I look forward to seeing that picture. I'd love to see it. Sarah's wishing you a happy birthday. And Terry says, I need to book an astrology reading for my birthday next month. Oh, yeah. That's a really special thing. Oh, because most people do an astrology reading every year for their birthday, or a lot of people do. A lot of people do, Terry. A lot of people have an astrology reading for their birthday if they can. I think that it's a really powerful thing to do what we call a solar return chart, which essentially just means that, when the sun returns to the place it was when you were born, and we take a look and see what the year has to hold for you. It's actually a special type of chart that we do for for your birthday. It's sort of like a progress chart, like what does this year hold for you type of thing. But you're also talking about the death chart reading for your late husband. And that's a different type of reading. That's an astrology death chart reading. And that's really about the astrology and the mediumship coming together to help you navigate through grief and to help you understand more deeply your connection to your husband. And, why did he pass at that time? What was your soul connection? What kind of lessons were meant to come through? And, like what were they thinking or feeling at the time of their death, and what was their interaction with you, and soul contracts, soulmates, and all of that kind of thing, Terry. All of that comes through in that reading. I'm looking forward to doing that with you. I'm sure it will be really powerful. Okay. All right, Kat, I'll check out the messages when I'm done with the live. Shawnee was saying, I got approved in February, like you said I would, but I didn't get my check until the end of May. Yeah, see what I mean? It's kind of a thing, right, Shawnee? And then Shawnee said, I've had a mediumship reading with Hollis, I've had coaching with Hollis, and I've had the regular astrology reading with Hollis, and I've had the death chart reading. And let me tell you what, it was life-changing, all of it. Oh, thanks so much, Shawnee. I so appreciate your support and your love and your feedback. I this doing these sorts of things, doing all of these kinds of readings and coaching and all of that kind of thing for people is really, for me, is about helping people grow into a better version of themselves, helping them to overcome really deep challenges. I myself have been through some really intense things. So I think it's a little bit easier for me to hold people through those kinds of transits, especially when we're suffering from like trauma or grief or loss. And I think that when you have something like astrology to help you with that, and I've been a witch for a really long time, which is very empowering. It tends to bring people a lot of personal empowerment. It tends to help people feel very connected to themselves. and to know their own meaning in life and know what they have to offer the world and know who they are. And I mean, in witchcraft, one of the first rules is to know thyself. Um, the second, I'd say the first rule is actually harm none, do as ye will. And that's in the Wiccan's Read. And while I'm not a strict Wiccan or anything, I do believe in that read. And I do believe that that is how we should function, that we should harm none and do what we will. And at the same time, I also believe that we should know ourselves, and that to know ourselves is a deeper understanding of our own personal spirituality and our um our connection to our own, like our own divinity, like who we are as divine beings. And I think that that's really powerful. So I'm so honored to hold your hand through this, Shawnee, to be one of the people to support you in this. But really, you're doing the work, Shawnee. You're the one that's showing up for yourself every day. You're the one doing the meditation. You're the one doing the yoga. You're the one taking care of yourself. You're the one that's changing your behaviors and your habits. And really, that's what's powerful, is when you start to change what you're doing, you get different results. And that's just how life works. And that's just basic science, you guys. When you change what you're doing, you get different results. If you don't like your life, change what you're doing. And when you change what you're doing, things will change. And then that's one of the biggest blessings, I think, about life. Um, Oh, Shawnee said, I don't know what's going on, but we went out of retrograde and money's been falling from the sky. Remember what I said, Shawnee, a few weeks ago? Remember I said that Venus, I was talking about it at the beginning of the show, but you were a little bit late. But Venus and Jupiter, which are both benefit planets, are in Cancer, which is where your moon sign is. So that's probably what's going on for you, Shawnee. So, now that we're not retrograde anymore, and right after the retrograde started to, sort of work itself out, Venus and Jupiter started traveling together, bringing blessings for everybody. A lot of people are experiencing a lot of great blessings right now in a lot of different types of ways. Yours just happens to be with money. And isn't that a blessing after everything you've been through? I appreciate that, Shawnee. And Shawnee said, Hollis does an amazing death chart reading. There's nothing like it. You'll learn so much and gain so much from it. And if you go back to it later, after you've been through your grief a little bit more, you'll even get even more out of it. I went back over a year later and got more out of it than I got when I got it. You know what, Shawnee? It's interesting because you're not the only one to say that. And that's a very interesting insight into the astrology mediumship reading, is that I sometimes, I'm a Scorpio rising. So sometimes Scorpios are kind of known for being super intense and super deep. And I think that when that happens, I think that's what's happening in the reading. Like, I'm going super deep, I'm going super intense. And I think in the moment, you can't really hear it all because you're suffering with grief, of course. But that's why I record it, so that you can watch it later, because then you can watch it later and be like, oh, oh my gosh, I missed that the first time, or I just didn't hear that the first time, or whatever. And then what ends up happening is that ends up really blessing it. It ends up being a gift to yourself over and over again. And Shawnee's not the only one to say that. I've actually had numerous. I even had one woman that said when she first came to me, she came to me for the reading. It was just after, I think it was her son or her husband passed. And it was just so intense for her. She could barely take in anything I said. And she said she kind of got mad at me a little bit, because I guess because it felt like I didn't try to, but she said she felt like some of the victimhood that she felt was being proven differently, that she wasn't necessarily a victim of circumstances. Anyway, she did some healing over like a year or so, and then she came back to it again and just watched it again, out of curiosity. And she totally had an awakening while watching the recording, and realizing that what I was saying was all the conclusions she had come to, and that there were some other things that she could integrate into her understanding of the passing of such a deep connection of a person that she loved so dearly. And so then when I looked at the astrology for her, it really played out things in a way that she came to understand later. But she didn't understand it in that first month, because I think the wound is just too deep, you know? Sometimes I think the messages that come through with the mediumship death chart reading is that, like, it's too intense. It's just too much. And then I think what happens is you start to heal that a little bit, and then you start to recognize that some of what I'm saying could actually be true and make sense for you. And I think that's like the part of the mediumship and the astrology together that's really powerful. There are some other astrologers that use astrology to help um to help people with grief. There's at least a couple that I've run into. I recently spoke to one, and but the other one I haven't actually spoke to her, and we had a little bit of discussion about it, and it is a powerful healing tool. But when I add the mediumship to it, when I can tell you that I'm getting the chills about stuff, or I can really sense from him this or that, and it helps me go into more details about these placements, about these transits. And then I think that's what makes the reading even more powerful. Um, and then let's see here. Just trying to go back and catch everybody's um Terry said he told you before that he and I are twin flames. I believe that, Terry. It's probably in the astrology. I'll be able to see it and even show it to you so that you can see it for yourself as well. Okay. So you can see it in black and white. And I think sometimes that's really powerful for people too, because I'm not just pulling stuff out of the thin air. I mean, you can look it up. Pluto typically means death, dying, everything around death and dying, as well as like power and control. And that the sun usually rules someone's vitality, and that the nodes usually mark someone's death um, to some degree. But I still follow Rick Levine's sort of suggestion about transits, about that there should be, three or more transits that point to the same thing before you decide something. So I look for three or more transits that point to death as I'm looking at it, so I can more deeply understand their death. And then that there's more than just the nodes that point to exit points. Just because you're having a nodal return doesn't mean you're going to die or whatever. It's not that black and white, and it's never that simple, because while astrology, Pluto means death, it also means transformation. And I think in the universe's eyes, I think the universe sees death as a transition. It's a form of transformation, if that makes sense. And I think that's why Pluto is often seen as that. So welcome, Sue. I'm glad you got to join us. I'm glad you're here. Alyssa said, astrology aside for just a second, but from an intuitive sense, do you ever see a person of authority in my life finally listening, taking accountability, and working with me towards a place of healing? I've been working really hard on my end and want to find meeting ground. But if they're not going to for some time, I can work on other things until then, Here, Alyssa, let me just tell you about that. I'm assuming we're talking about like in a friendship or partnership, in a love relationship, Alyssa. Um, and the one thing that I would say about that is to just keep working on yourself. Sometimes you have to wait for the other person that's meant to be with you to also do those work. And like I always say, there's a lot of free will at play all the time, always. Okay. We always have free will. And what I would say about you, Alyssa, is that just do the shadow work as long as you can. And I believe that that will lead you to a good relationship. It will lead you to exactly what whatever is meant for you, especially right now with that North Node in Pisces. This is your destiny. So, even with the astrology side, I don't always see relationships coming through. And sometimes they're just a surprise. And just remember, Uranus is always at play. Uranus could easily come in a conversation with something and bring you surprises, right? And I think relationships are supposed to be surprising. And sometimes we just have to wait for the right person to show up. And I think it's not about waiting. Like, don't sit around and wait. Work on yourself so that the energy is there when the person does arrive. So that you're ready when they do. And I just believe in divine guidance and divine timing. And I think you just work on yourself until the right, and you'll know the right person when they come along. You'll know, Alyssa. Kat said, I have no doubt that Hollis Taylor is the real deal. They make me feel normal for a change. You're welcome, Kat. Oh man, being our authentic selves can sometimes be a really hard thing. Even sometimes I struggle with it. You know, you guys, like even today I said something in a talk with somebody that I was like, why did I ask that? It's just because I'm always I was trying to protect myself. I was trying to know what I was walking into, or I don't know. So sometimes we all, do things. And when you're authentically yourself, sometimes that's going to brush up against others and kind of make you feel a little weird. And Kat, if anyone gets feeling weird and feeling like we don't belong in our society, I get that really big. Really, really big, Cat. Really, really big. I have Uranus and Scorpio on my ascendant. It is one of the biggest struggles in life is feeling like a weirdo. I'm so glad that you guys never see me that way. So, a girl who loves penguins says, "Thank you for doing these lives. I really appreciate it." You're welcome. Yes, Cat. To thine self be true is a good, that's a good way to live. And I try to be that way. I try. Another friend this weekend said to me, I told her I was awkward with my neighbors or something. And she said, awkward is beautiful. When you feel awkward, that means you're being your authentic self. So I was nice and awkward today. Again, I feel like I'm freaking being awkward ever since ever since Uranus went into Gemini. I feel like my awkwardness has multiplied times 10 for some reason. Hey, Laura, big prayers to you. Sue said, Hollis, can you explain briefly what the death chart reading is? Sure. So what happens is, so first of all, what you should come to understand is that in astrology, a natal chart reading, is essentially your life map. Okay. It has all the parts of your life in it, everything from like mundane things like money, resources, and the house you live in, even how you look can be in your astrology chart, your health, all of that stuff is in the astrology chart, as well as more spiritual things like psychic abilities, deep spiritual connections to the divine, your connection to the unseens and to all that is hidden, your connection to maybe taboo or occult type topics like astrology and mediumship, as well as your relationships and your career and your friends. All of those things are all in your astrology chart. Okay. In anyone's astrology chart. So if you look at your natal chart, that's what you'll be able to find. Now, beyond that, okay, then there is a death chart when someone dies. And this essentially is the moment in which they died to the best of our ability on timing. But usually we can at least have the right day. And sometimes we even have the right time. And when that happens, we can draft a death chart, and we can put a birth chart, which is when they were born, and a death chart together. And when you do that, you can see what a person's life might have been like, what they maybe accomplished, what their death was about. Was their death destined? Were they destined to die at that time? Did they take their own life? What were they feeling or thinking at the time? What were they going through? Did they just have a relationship problem? Did they just experience something else? Were they really struggling with their own shadow work, like in the eighth house, or maybe with money or something like that? Okay. So we would see all of that in the chart. But then what happens is I also do a natal chart for you, and I bring that through in a way that helps us understand your connection to them, because I put the two charts together, right? And it helps me understand your synastry and your connections with each other, about your destiny together and how you're connected with each other, and those kinds of things. Okay. And that's a really powerful thing to know, especially about someone that's passed. And I also take a look at the moment of their death and see what that moment was meant to bring for you, what that was supposed to teach you. What are you supposed to harvest from this death? Because while it might seem like a terrible thing, there's also usually something that you can harvest from that. Okay. Yeah, all hard things have divine lessons, that's for sure. And so, and not always easy lessons. I'm not saying that they're easy, but I'm just saying that oftentimes there's something, positive to come out of it. And I'm not trying to do away with the shadow, because definitely there's lots of hard parts of it, and I can definitely see what parts of it you would struggle with. But I can also help your soul find healing in the chart. Okay. And then I would also say that I add my mediumship to it. So, like, if I'm looking at a connection on the chart, okay, I can see that this is a connection. I can say, I'm also feeling from him this. I'm feeling the detail of that transit was this. I'm feeling that, yeah, the relationship had ended with the girl, but now, and he was feeling very, victimized by it, or and he was feeling lesser than or not enough or something like that. And so I might have a deeper, more detailed understanding of what they were understanding. And then altogether, this reading ends up being so powerful, and ends up changing people's grief journey altogether. um Okay. Alyssa said, yeah, a parental relationship in this situation. I've been working hard on myself for a while now. Alyssa, I would just keep working on yourself. Just stay focused on yourself. Ooh, I know all about that. When I was like 28, 29, 30, 30, all the way until I was like a good 35 years old. That was a really intense journey. But I did make the best of it. I was drag king towards the end of it. It's a good way to do it. Mm-hmm. um it's a good way to sort of tap into some other things. And Shawnee said, I think you're exactly right. I was focused on him during the reading, that I didn't hear what you were saying for me. And when I went back a year later and I was more open and not so deep in grief, I was able to get the messages that were meant for me. And once I heard those messages, that's really what started my healing journey and opened the floodgates. Yeah, Shawnee. And I think I don't think you're the only one that has had that experience with that reading. There's actually several other people that have had that exact experience. So you're definitely not the only one. And Shawnee said, I've learned from coaching with Hollis that I'm not ever going to get the answers I need from the authority people that hurt me in my life. No. And if I spent my time searching for them to take accountability, I'm just slowing my healing. I don't need them to take accountability to heal me. I learned that through my coaching. That's right. You don't. Because you know what? I don't know. Sometimes we think we need if we've suffered from sort of like past trauma or something like that, um, or someone has, abused us in some way. It doesn't, it's like, you don't have to have an apology. And sometimes I've had apologies, and sometimes the apology doesn't fix it, and it doesn't make it better. And in some cases I have had apologies. And I wouldn't say that when you've lived through a traumatic situation that an apology is going to make it better. You heal that wound. You are responsible for healing that wound always. Okay. So, like, in my experience, regardless of whether you get an apology or not, doesn't seem to matter a whole lot. The person taking accountability for what they did is not going to change the hurt and the pain that you're experiencing. That hurt and that pain is still your wound. It's still something that you have experienced. So that apology is not necessarily going to make it better. I mean, it might make it better if you're currently in relationship with that person. It might start moving you towards healing maybe. But even in love relationships, if someone really hurt the other person, like let's say one person cheated on the other person or lied about something very important, and then I feel that when you've experienced that type of thing in a relationship, the likelihood of healing that, especially in broken trust, is really hard. And love relationships end all the time. And I'll tell you what, I've ended 2 love relationships. And I feel like even though it didn't actually end at the time that they lied to me, it did feel like the relationship sort of started going down the tubes at the time, at the moment I realized they lied to me. Like I had a ex-wife that lied to me about it was kind of a really stupid lie, and I just didn't understand why she would lie about my son's girlfriend, and it made a disconnection, and that really bothered me. And then forever then there forward and forever and ever on going after that, I just never trusted anything she said. So I don't know if any of you have ever had that problem, but in my opinion, as soon as the trust is broken, it's really hard to repair. And that's why they always say, you know, that, it only takes one moment to break the trust, but it could take a lifetime to rebuild. And it's not just about forgiveness. That's not what heals those wounds. What heals that wounds is your understanding of who you are, where your boundaries are, and how to recognize how to take better care of yourself, how to put yourself first, and those kinds of things. Okay? That's what heals the wounds. Learning to love yourself. I think that's the most powerful thing. Shawnee said, "Oh my God, when I had my death chart astrology reading, when I was open to it more out of my grief, it changed my life. I have learned what my spiritual gifts are, what my path is. I'm so awakened from it, and I know what I have to do." That's beautiful, Shawnee. That's all I want for all of you, really. That's all I want for every single one of you that have experienced some sort of loss or grief, is that you find your healing, that you find some way through the pain. I don't want you to ignore the pain. I don't want you to walk away from the pain. I don't even want you to just, float through it. I want you to walk through it. I want to hold your hand and walk you through it. That's all. I just want to help you work through it in a way that's healthy for you, that helps land in a good place. And Mama Cole, hey, Mama Cole, great to see you. She said apologies are ridiculous. It's finding compassion in the situation and to find our own healing with is how I've been healing trauma. I so agree with you, Cheryl. That's absolutely. I don't think the apology has any bearing on your healing, honestly. I mean, it might help maybe in some situations, but I don't think it's necessary. So Sue said, makes total sense to me now. Thank you. When I first heard death chart, I thought you could determine when someone was going to die. Some people do try to do that, but I don't really think that's a good idea. And I can tell you why. And she said, but it's more about where we each were in our life at the time it happened to our loved one. That's right. Along with so much more lessons and stuff like that. Helps with healing to know a lot of this. That's right. And technically a death chart is that, Sue, but I'm doing an astrology mediumship death chart reading. See how I don't know what else to call it because I made it up. I'm the only person in the world that does it as far as I know. I've tried to look at other mediums sites, but doesn't seem like any of them do astrology as well. And then the one or two that don't seem to combine the two in a reading. Maybe they're just not meant to yet or whatever. But yeah, so some people do try to like predict their death or whatever. The reason that's not really recommended, in my opinion, is because sometimes what looks like it could possibly be death could actually be a time of transition, a time of transformation, a time of change. And because, like I said, like for instance, Pluto, and I always use this as an example, Pluto is the planet of death. Okay. It is the planet of death, dying, and everything to do with death. And often it is involved when someone dies. Not always, but often. And then on top of that, the thing is that it also represents transformation. So Pluto is also a huge transformational time. So if you're having some sort of Pluto transit, you might be going through some big changes. Maybe you're becoming aware of some narcissists in your life. Maybe you're making some changes around something else, or maybe you're coming to realize something about death, right? Maybe you're even, coming into terms with your own mediumship skills or something else like that. And so I feel like Pluto in itself tells us that from the universe's perspective, that 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 death is transformation. It's just another form of transformation. Okay. And that's why Pluto means both of those things. And I don't think that we're supposed to predict death. I actually think that we're not supposed to know when we die. Now, it could be useful. Judith Hill was saying that it could be useful if someone is in hospice. Someone is already dying, so they're already very sick, and they're hospice, and we're trying to figure out if it's going to be this week or next week. Well, then you could probably predict when they might pass, and that would probably be fairly accurate. And that could be helpful in that situation. But most of us are not here on hospice, right? So, hey, Angie, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. It's good to have you with us, Angie. Alyssa said, it is insane to be going through a spiritual awakening, massive grief that triggered so much within, and now healing myself all at once. I'm truly hoping that some healing can happen for them. Don't really need an apology, but it's hard to unsee now that one big issue is stopping them from moving forward. Alyssa, I totally understand this. Oh my gosh, I understand this. I totally get it. And sometimes we just heal and we have to wait for others to heal. And I think the best thing to do in those situations is to pray. It's to pray for them. Even for people that have hurt you. I try to this morning, even I tried to sit with prayers and say some prayers for people that haven't been so great to me. And I've tried to send out good things for them, good mojo to them. May they, be blessed in life or whatever it is. And that's not always an easy thing to do, but I think it's a good exercise, at least for you. And it might help them, but I think it's a really good exercise for you in your heart and your soul to send out this sort of energy, this sort of blessing energy to people while they haven't healed. Okay. Trust me. We all get it right now. Just take a look at our country, right? Sue said, I always felt and was told we shouldn't know when. We will do things differently when we know. I agree, Sue. I totally agree with you. I think it's actually out of integrity to try to predict death. But you can see in the one instance in which I think that it could be helpful. If someone was on hospice, I can see how that could be helpful. And even then it could be wrong, right? And Mama Cole said, death astrology helped me make sense of my mother's abuse and trauma she carried, and it helps so much make sense of so many things. Always suggest the death astrology reading when you're ready to know the deep truth and answers to questions you may not know. Yes, Mama Cole. And, understanding, if you have an abuser in your life, taking a look at their astrology chart can help you understand more deeply. Now, I would say that everybody in this world, even if they've suffered from major trauma in childhood, has a choice of whether to express in shadow or light. Now, some people are destined to struggle with addiction, while others might struggle with power and control, particularly over other people. Or some people might struggle with like sex or sexual abuse and things like that. And I think that those challenges are in life can be very hard. And I think that there's also ways to work through them. I do think that we can pray for people to start expressing through the light. In fact, if someone comes to me that's expressing a lot of their placements out of the shadow of those placements, because astrology, it doesn't usually dictate that something, it's not black and white, it's not like this is always good or this is always bad. It's never like that. It's usually more like, well, it could come across this way or that way. Okay. Just like I said, like Venus, Venus and traveling with Jupiter, it could be about relationships or it could be about money. Those are two completely different subjects, but those are two things that Venus tends to deal with, right? And when it's in Cancer, it could have a lot to do with your relationship with home or your relationship at home, right? Okay. Especially because Cancer tends to rule home. And it could have something to do maybe with the relationship with your mother, especially because is ruled by the moon. So it could be any of those things. It's never black and white like that. And so I think that that also applies when we experience trauma. And I think that while a person could express more power and control, maybe because of some placements that they have, and it could make them more, arrogant or whatever. Like, for instance, Leo can be sometimes seen as arrogant, but it can also be seen as highly integrous, with high integrity, with loyalty, with strength and pride. So I always feel like there's kind of like sort of a little bit of two sides to any sign. And I think that that's true about Scorpio, Libra. It doesn't matter what sign. And same goes for the planets. And I feel like that's what kind of makes astrology a little bit more on the gray side. And then and I think when you're suffering from trauma, you tend to either, number one, not express the light of who you are because you're inauthentic, because now you're expressing your trauma rather than your authentic personal self. Or you might express some placements in their shadow. Okay. And I think that usually happens, especially if you're suffering from a lot of trauma. So, one of the things that you can do is if you recognize that let's just say, you have let's say you have a Virgo placement and you find yourself judging a lot or something like that, you can choose to express the Virgo in the light, which is in a slightly different way, where you might be more uplifting to others and be more positive to others, and be very connected to the earth and maybe be in service to other people, which is very much in the light, right? Okay. Instead of expressing it in the shadow, which is where we tend to judge people. Okay. All right. All right. So I'm gonna as we're Shawnee said Shawnee said, I tell you what, healing is not a pretty journey. No. And it's never perfectly straight there, Shawnee. I cry all the time at the drop of a hat and then I'll laugh 10 seconds later. Of course. Um because I just let the grief out. Hollis taught me, and Mama Cole taught me that I have to feel it to get through it. That's right. That's exactly what I do. And it's not always pretty. No, not at all. Healing is never beautiful, but it's beautiful when you get to the other side. But I've noticed since I've been listening to my astrology charts and listening to Hollis and following the advice from the planets in my readings, I have grown so much in my life and have become so blessed. Thank you, Shawnee. I appreciate that. Um, Shawnee said, Alyssa I have to grieve. Who are you telling I have to grieve? A narcissistic abuser who was the love of my life that I spent almost 19 years loving. And I have to make sense of all the trauma that he put me through. And on top of that, I have to heal from 9 different abusers and multiple rapes as an adult. So I get what you're saying. And at first, I was seeking an apology and retribution. But as I've grown in my healing journey, I've realized I don't need them to be accountable. I don't need them to see their shit because I see it. And as long as I see it, they can't hurt me anymore. That's right, Shawnee. No one can hurt you anymore. You are in charge of your life. You have the power. And that's me pushing you towards the light of Leo, right? And so pushing you towards the light of Leo to be in your power, to be confident, to be in integrity, to do the right thing. That's the light of Leo. And all the signs have lights and a little bit of shadow, and we all have shadow. We all have parts of us that we're not happy about, and we can start to move more towards the light if we decide to, if we choose to. It's definitely a choice. I definitely chose when I was like 20, 28, somewhere around there. Somebody said to me, what I said was, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time. I hate being miserable. I feel like I'm always living in the dark. That's what I said. And she said, if you want to be in the light, all you have to do is take a slight step to the right. And that's I didn't really know what she meant at that time. And so I asked my guides to help me with that. I wasn't really sure. And I was like, exactly does she mean by that? But I figured it out pretty quickly. And all it meant was I needed to, change how I felt about myself. And I simply started to do exactly what people had been telling me to do for years and years and years, which was to simply love myself. And the more I loved myself, the better things got. So I'll leave you with that. Today, I've really enjoyed Cosmic Wisdom with all of you today, and I look forward to connecting with you next week on Tuesday nights, 7 o'clock, Cosmic Wisdom with me. Bring your questions, bring it. You can even post your chart. Like if you have an image of your chart, take a picture of it. I should be able to see it in the comments, and just post a picture of it. I'd love to take a look at it for you and do you a quick little mini reading. And just know that anything that you're healing from, just love yourself. Just spend a little time learning to love yourself, learning to get in touch with who you are, and expressing yourself as authentically as possible. Like I said, I'm still learning to do that, okay? We're all learning to do that. Life is a journey. No one has perfected it. And I haven't perfected it, and I've been at it for a long time. And I think that over in our journey of change, I'm not sure that healing, like you don't arrive at a place and now you're suddenly healed. I think it's more like slowly things start to get better and your life starts to get better and positivity starts to come in. And, if you've ever healed from an injury or anything like that, it's not like one day you can walk again after breaking a leg. No, it's more like you can slowly take a few steps and then it gets a little bit easier each day, right? And then week after week you get a little bit better, right? Okay? And that's pretty much how all healing works, whether it's a physical thing, an emotional thing, a mental thing, or something inside your soul that needs healing. Recognize that healing happens in divine timing, and if you just stay open to it, it will come to you. And don't be, like I said, if you don't like your life the way it is, you got to change something. Change the way you're living your life. Okay? All right, everyone. And remember, you are a perfectly imperfect reflection of the universe. All right. It's been beautiful to see all of you tonight. Good night.